How's it going, guys? My name is Eish, and welcome back to MoneyMetEish. Why is a large pile of money in the bank being eaten away by inflation possibly one of the most important keys to your financial success? Today, we will be looking at emergency funds. Why you need them, where to keep them, how much you need, and when to use them. But before we get started, please remember that I'm not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, and this is a blank cup. Blank cups. Put your logo on my cup. For more information about blank cups and how to work with MoneyMetEish, email us at moneymeteish@gmail.com. Please also hit the like button, share this video far and wide, and subscribe down below to be notified when we upload a new video. It might be very tempting to forego having an emergency fund, especially when you start investing. You want to put your money to work for you, you want to watch it grow, and this is money that could be used for a business venture or invested in property or in the stock market, but instead it is sitting, slowly being eaten away by inflation while gaining the smallest amount imaginable. It sounds so stupid. But this money is not only the key, but also the foundation to all of your future financial success. So, let's look at why that is. This is Warren. Warren is pretty famous. He's often considered the best person to ever do what he does. Warren is also rather old and very, very wealthy. Warren Buffett's investment returns with his company Berkshire Hathaway have averaged 20% a year over the last 50 years. But I believe, however, that most people tend to focus on the 20%, the wrong one of these two numbers. Yes, Warren Buffett is one of the greatest investors of all time, but not because he gets over 20% a year. In fact, Jim Simmons of Renaissance Technologies absolutely killed Warren Buffett for returns while he was the manager of the Medallion Fund, which generated an average annual return of 66%. 66%. So why isn't Jim Simmons more widely considered the greatest investor of all time? Or you/some person, I think, from r/JSE bets on Reddit, who held PPC from 58 cents like an absolute legend. Shout out to you/some person, I think, and r/JSE bets. Him and I actually had a really good chat in the build-up to this video, and he absolutely murdered the market over the last 2 years with over 90% total portfolio gains, just absolutely insane returns. So why aren't they the best investors of all time? Time. Time is the key. Warren Buffett is the best investor of all time because he has been consistent for over 50 years. He started investing in his teens and is now 91 years old. He's had over 75 years to achieve his incredible wealth, most of which was earned after he reached retirement age. Where Jim Simmons retired in 2010, Warren just kept on trucking. His wealth since Jim's retirement has grown 147%. Morgan Housel writes brilliantly about this topic in his book, The Psychology of Money, a segment of which is linked down below. Warren Buffett's first rule of investing is widely quoted as, "Don't lose money." But I think a better quote comes from his business partner, Charlie Munger, who says the first rule of compounding is never interrupted unnecessarily. That is why your emergency funds, especially when you just start to invest, can be more important than what you are actually invested in. Do not interrupt your compounding unnecessarily. FMB did a study last year and found that 80% of their customers earning between 15 and 42,000 Rand per month had no or little money set aside that they would be able to access within 7 days in case of an emergency. This is obviously a big issue, and I'm sure that you've heard it before, but having an emergency fund saves you when things go wrong, not if. Things are going to go wrong. It is inevitable. We have had to use our emergency fund at least 3 times in the last year, and each amount was more than we would have been able to cover if we hadn't had an emergency fund. This could have meant that we would have had to have taken out much more debt, or sold out of investments, or who knows what. But luckily, we didn't have to do any of that because we have an emergency fund. There are many important benefits to having an emergency fund. It allows you to access funds at a moment's notice, to cover unexpected issues such as a medical emergency, or if your geyser bursts, or if your motorbike decides it doesn't want to be a motorbike anymore, or any unexpected expense you might have. That's the point. They are unexpected. We don't know when they're going to happen. It also has more far-reaching impacts, like keeping you out of debt, or more importantly, in my opinion, it allows you to stay invested in the market. Imagine if you had 1,000 rands worth of Capitec shares in 2015 when they were 30 rand a share and you had to sell out. If you were able to hold on to those shares, that holding today would be worth 72,456 rand and 66 cents. There are tons of stories like this all over the internet, and it's not as simple as just buying in again. We are all humans after all, and we all come with many biases, such as the anchoring bias, which is when you buy a share at a certain price and then struggle to mentally and emotionally justify buying that share again at a higher price, even if the deal offers the same or better value. So, now that we looked at why you need an emergency fund, let's look at a few places to keep them. There are a myriad of different accounts that you could use to keep your emergency funds, but I think they need to meet the following 2 criteria to be eligible. Number 1, they need to be separate. Your emergency funds cannot be in the same account as any other transactional money or savings you might have. We are all humans. If you see that money, you spend that money. It's far too easy to just take some over here, and a small amount over there, and a birthday present here, and a night out over there, and now you have no emergency fund. Keep your emergency fund completely separate. If that means you need to have it at a different bank, do it. And number 2, they need to be accessible immediately. Your emergency fund needs to be accessible immediately. Not in 7 days, not in 32 days, now! If your geyser is rude enough to burst first thing in the morning, it is not going to be polite enough to give you the time you need for your bank to release funds. This means that you are more than likely going to be losing your money slowly to inflation. And that's okay. There are a lot of financial people who would tell you that you need to find an account that will match inflation for your emergency fund. That is most likely going to require you to lock up those funds for a longer time, which negates the point. If losing 0.5% a year to inflation, being the difference between the inflation rate and the interest rate you're getting from your bank account, is the fee that you need to pay the fee. This is insurance. It's a tax on your present self to ensure your future self doesn't need to make any hard financial decisions, like selling out of a retirement annuity or selling your investment portfolio and taking massive financial hits. But how much exactly should you have in your emergency fund? The amount that you will hear if you ask this question is anywhere from 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. This is a ballpark figure, and the final amount is going to end up being an amount that you decide fits you best. But it should definitely be at least 3 months of your emergency expenses. Mrs. Met Eish and I have 2 budgets. Our regular monthly budget and an emergency budget which we implemented when we first went into lockdown. Our regular budget is lovely and cushy and affords us all the luxuries that we enjoy on a regular basis, like champagne sundaes every Sunday, while still funding our investments, paying off debt, and saving for things that we want to see and do on our combined salaries. Our emergency budget is bare bones and stretches out one of our salaries over the next 3 months. This is the money that we need to make sure that we can survive on. It is not meant to be comfortable. It is meant to be an almost worst-case scenario plan. This is a matter of survival. When you are planning your emergency funds, do not take all your monthly spending into account. Even still, with items like housing, food, and transport generally being amongst the largest expenses of a household, even emergency budgets can run up to a rather hefty number. That is why Dave Ramsey suggests starting with a $1,000 baby emergency fund while you are paying off debts. That way, even though if something large happens, you won't be entirely covered, nothing small and far more likely to happen will set your financial goals and your financial future back in a big way. Once your debts are paid off, or you can get a new job with a higher salary, etc., you can funnel more money into your full emergency fund, be that 3 or 6 or even 12 months worth of expenses. When to use your emergency fund is a personal decision. Only you can decide what really constitutes a true financial emergency, which is also why the funds need to be in a separate account. Just that little bit of extra effort needed to access the money will stop most people from spending it unnecessarily. Don't keep the card on you at all times. Forget it exists. Out of sight, out of mind. Emergency funds offer you peace of mind. Even though you might lose a small amount to inflation every year and need to top it up occasionally, the amount of money that it could save you in the long run when things go wrong is almost immeasurable. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked this video and would like to support the growth of the channel, please hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe to be notified when we upload new videos. Please also share this video with a friend. You can also follow MoneyMetEish on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere where MoneyMetEishes are. We will also be including the emergency fund spreadsheet that we personally use on the MoneyMetEish Patreon coming soon. So stay tuned to all the above mentioned platforms. Thank you and good night.